All right, so today we're going deep, really deep, into the history of rock music.
And as you might have guessed from the title of today's deep dive,
The roots of rock. How blues shaped the sound of modern rock.
we're going to uncover how the blues provided the fertile ground from which rock music sprung.
Yeah, and get ready for some serious aha moments, because we're talking about how hardship and resilience fueled this whole genre.
And how a simple 12-bar structure,
Yeah, became the DNA of countless rock anthems.
and get this,
Oh.
how British bands took this American art form and turned it into a global phenomenon.
It's a wild ride, but don't worry, you don't have to be a musician to geek out with us on this.
No, not at all.
This deep dive is all about understanding the power of cultural influence and how music evolves, how it all connects.
It's like when you think about the blues, it wasn't just music for entertainment, it was way more than that.
Oh, absolutely.
It was born out of a need to process, to express, to share the human experience. Imagine the African-American communities in the late 19th and early 20th century facing incredible hardship and finding solace, finding strength, finding a voice through music. It was raw, relatable, and deeply, deeply embedded in their lives.
Yeah, you can hear that in every note. It's like, forget catchy melodies and trying to write a hit. This was about pouring their hearts and souls out through music.
Exactly.
It was real, raw, and powerful.
Yeah.
And speaking of powerful, we got to talk about the 12-bar blues. This thing, this structure, became the foundation for so much.
I know, right? It's incredible how such a simple structure, 3 chords, the I, V, and V, could create such a powerful and versatile sound.
It's like the building blocks of a skyscraper. Simple on their own, but capable of creating something truly immense.
Precisely. And that's the beauty of the 12-bar blues. It's this simple framework, but it allows for infinite variation.
Yeah, you can hear it in Robert Johnson's Crossroad Blues.
Oh, absolutely.
And then fast forward a few decades, and boom, Led Zeppelin's rock and roll is using that same structure, but it's, completely different.
It's fascinating how it transcends genres and generations.
It's like having this musical blueprint that can be interpreted and reinterpreted in endless ways.
Mm-hmm.
And things, they really start to heat up as we move into the 1940s and 50s with the birth of Chicago blues. That's where artists like Muddy Waters and Howlin Wolf plugged in, turned up the amps, and, electrified the blues.
It was a game changer, really. You still had that raw emotion, that depth of the blues, but now it was infused with this incredible energy and volume.
Yeah, it's like they took the soul of the blues and injected it with, pure adrenaline.
A shot of pure energy.
Exactly. But we can't forget about Chuck Berry, the game changer himself. He took that 12-bar blues, infused it with his signature energy, those storytelling lyrics, and put the guitar front and center.
Chuck Berry, he was a master at blending genres, wouldn't you say? He took that raw emotion of the blues and combined it with an infectious energy and storytelling that just resonated with a whole new generation.
Seriously, if you haven't already, go listen to Johnny B. Goode right after this. You'll hear exactly what we mean. That's not just a song. It's a sonic evolution happening right before your ears.
Mm-hmm.
That guitar riff, those driving rhythms, it's the sound of the blues transforming into something brand new.
And he wasn't alone.
Nope.
Muddy Waters, B.B. King, Howlin Wolf. These guys weren't just musicians. They were pioneers shaping a sound that would become the bedrock of rock and roll. Each brought their own style, their own story, their own flavor to the table, and their influence is undeniable.
It's honestly mind-blowing to think about how much impact these early blues artists had on the future of music, and then boom, the 1960s hit, and you have these British bands like the Rolling Stones, the Yardbirds, and Led Zeppelin. They heard this American blues, and they were like, wait, what is this? We need to get in on this.
It's the ultimate example of cultural exchange through music, don't you think?
Oh, for sure.
These British bands, they took the raw energy and emotion of the blues, added their own unique flavor, and introduced it to a global audience. It was electrifying.
And it wasn't just about, straight up copying. These British bands were like students of the blues, man. They really dove in deep.
Oh, absolutely. Take the Rolling Stones, for example. Huge fans of Muddy Waters, Howlin Wolf, even started out covering their songs. But then they took those blues roots and injected them with this, rebellious energy, creating their own iconic sound. I mean, I can't get no satisfaction, come on, pure genius.
It's like they took a master class in blues and then wrote their own graduation thesis on it, rock and roll style.
Exactly. And then you've got Led Zeppelin, right? They dove headfirst into the blues, too. I mean, songs like like You Shook Me, Whole Lotta Love, those are directly inspired by blues structures and themes. And let's not forget Jimmy Page.
Oh, man. Talk about a guitar god.
Right. He was a master at taking those traditional blues scales and weaving in this heavy, distorted sound that just blew people's minds.
Distortion. Talk about adding another layer to the blues. Just for those who haven't geek out on guitar effects, distortion basically like overdrives the signal, creating this thick, fuzzy sound.
Precisely. And Page used it to create those iconic riffs that defined Led Zeppelin's sound. It's a far cry from the acoustic guitars of the early blues, for sure, but you can still hear that blues DNA running through it.
It's wild how these British bands took something so deeply rooted in American culture and made it their own. And, they did it all while still honoring those origins.
It speaks to the universality of music, don't you think? How it can transcend borders, cultures, and just connect with people on this fundamental level.
Totally, 100%. And that connection doesn't stop with the British invasion. Even as rock music continued to evolve, you can hear those blues echoes in the playing of guitar legends like, Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Each one a master in their own right, but with a clear lineage back to the blues. Clapton, for instance, he was heavily influenced by B.B. King, Robert Johnson. You can hear that soulful, expressive style in Clapton's playing, whether he's with Cream, Derek and the Dominoes, or even as a solo artist.
Oh, yeah. Clapton's guitar playing, it's like butter, smooth and soulful.
And then there's Hendrix. Took the blues and just injected it with psychedelic rock and a whole lot of feedback.
Oh, yeah. Hendrix was a true innovator, pushing boundaries left and right.
Yeah.
But even with all the experimental sounds he was creating, you can still hear that blues foundation in his music, especially in his guitar solos.
Absolutely. And Stevie Ray Vaughan, talk about a blues revival. He comes along in the 80s and brings back that raw, soulful sound to a whole new generation, proving that the blues was far from over.
It's like this musical tapestry, with the blues as the foundation and all these other genres branching out from it, adding their own unique colors and patterns.
And that tapestry just keeps growing. We've been focusing on some of the biggest names here, but there are countless other artists who've kept the spirit of the blues alive in rock and beyond.
So true. There's this whole world of musical discovery out there, man. You could spend a lifetime, seriously, exploring the connections and influences between blues, rock, and everything in between.
And that's what's so exciting about music, isn't it? It's a journey of discovery, and there's always something new to learn and explore.
It's pretty amazing when you think about how much music has transformed, just since those early days of blues and rock. Makes you wonder, what's next?
Yeah.
What new sounds are out there waiting to be discovered? What's going to build on this legacy?
That's the beauty of it all, isn't it? The story of music never really ends. Just when you think you've heard it all, something new pops up, drawing inspiration from the past, but also pushing boundaries, breaking new ground.
It's true. It's like this endless feedback loop of creativity.
Yeah.
And speaking of feedback, we've talked a lot about the blues influencing rock. But I don't know, did rock ever return the favor? Did it ever influence the blues back?
That's a great question, and it really highlights how music is a two-way street, this constant exchange. While the blues laid the groundwork, rock's innovations definitely circled back and influenced the blues in a lot of ways. Take the electric guitar and amplification, for example.
Yeah, good point.
Those weren't originally part of the blues, but once they were introduced, they became, integral.
Right, like rock handed the blues some new tools and said, here you go, play with this.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about the equipment either. Songwriting, performance techniques, there was this constant exchange of ideas happening between these genres. It's really quite fascinating.
Like a musical conversation spanning generations.
Yeah.
It's honestly amazing to think about.
It truly is. And it reminds us that music is alive, always evolving, always finding new ways to express itself. The blues provided the roots, but rock helped those roots branch out in exciting new directions.
Well said, well said. And as we wrap up this deep dive into the roots of rock, we want to leave you with something to chew on.
Nice, like that. Something to chew on. How about this? Think about how music has acted as a force for cultural exchange and evolution throughout history, and not just with blues and rock. Think bigger. Consider how different cultures all over the world have used music to share their stories, their emotions, to connect with each other. It's a question worth exploring, and who knows, it might just lead you to some incredible discoveries.
It's like we always say, the best deep dives are the ones that inspire you to keep digging. So until next time, keep those ears open and that musical curiosity flowing.